But it turns out that one big idea for changing how the government provides financial assistance may have appeal to some on the left and the right. It is a minimum level of government payments known as guaranteed basic income.
It's a civil right that your existence is not negotiable by the market.
So this is for everybody?
It's for everybody, rich people, poor people.
Turns out the idea has supporters here in the United States as well, both left and right. It was a long ago favorite of conservative guru Milton Friedman and remains appealing to libertarian Charles Murray, who proposed a minimum income in a book called In Our Hands, say $12,000 per person per year in today's dollars, tax-free up to a total of about $30,000.
You have a system whereby every month a check goes into an electronic bank account for everybody over the age of 21 that they can use as they see fit. They can get together with other people and combine their resources, but they live their own lives. We put their lives back in their hands.
And enthuses Veronique de Rougy of George Mason University's conservative Mercatus Center, we get their lives out of the hands of government bureaucrats.
The current system is not serving poor people well. The appeal of the guaranteed minimum income is it doesn't dictate the people who gets this money how to spend it. And it assumes that they, better than anyone else in Washington, know what they need.
On the left, anthropologist and activist David Graeber, a key cog in the Occupy movement, is similarly disenchanted with social welfare bureaucrats.
I think this is a perfect left critique of bureaucracy. We could employ thousands of people to make us feel bad about ourselves. Just get rid of those people and just give everybody some money, and I think everyone will be much better off.
Now, to be clear, folks on the right believe a guaranteed minimum income only works if it wholly replaces current poverty programs.
There's no more food stamps, there's no more Medicaid, you just go down the whole list. None of that's left. We're going to go to a system whereby that bureaucracy downtown is cutting a check, but the human needs in the community have to be dealt with those who are in the best position to do it, who are not bureaucrats, but people who know the person that experiences those human needs.
Surprisingly, perhaps, the left's Graeber points to evidence in support of the right's Murray.
In Namibia, they did an experiment where they used to give aid and instead they just gave everybody a flat sum of money. And the first thing people did was they got together, took half the money, put it in a common pool, and that created a democratic system. And they decided what they really needed was a post office, I think, which is something no aid group would ever have thought of. These people actually do know their communal needs better than somebody from outside. So it would at least give us the opportunity to get together and create common projects in a way that we haven't been able to do before.
But while David Graeber disdains government bureaucracies, he's against wiping out all welfare programs.
The amounts of money they're now talking about giving people aren't enough to take care of things like health care, housing. But I think if you guarantee those sort of basic needs, you could get rid of almost all the programs on top of that.
Right-wing economist Deirdre McCloskey, who calls herself a bleeding heart libertarian, has also supported a guaranteed minimum income for years.
But would you accept a minimum income with some of the social welfare programs continuing to be in place?
Yes, because I think the other ones then would atrophy. I think they would go away.
McCloskey is famous for her work as Don McCloskey on the rhetoric and history of economics. She wrote several critiques of the discipline from a feminist perspective after she herself changed genders.
You went through a major life transformation almost 20 years ago.
I did.
Has it changed your point of view with regard to any of this?
Well, I sometimes say that I'm a motherly libertarian, and that wouldn't work too well if I was still a guy.
Now, we shouldn't forget a last key argument from the left: a minimum income as a way to combat rising income inequality. That's an issue even in relatively equal Switzerland, says the Harvard Business School's Felix Oberholzer-Guy, a Swiss native who can vote in the upcoming referendum.
Europeans are not used to the kinds of inequalities that the modern global economy tends to produce. They respond more harshly against even small changes in trends, because you grow up in a society where everybody is more equal than we will be used to in the American context.
Okay, there's sympathy in Switzerland for a guaranteed income, and in the U.S. from both the right and left. So what's not to like? Well, for one thing, says liberal economist Barbara Bergman, at any plausible minimum income,
you're still going to have a lot of people who are in trouble because they have special needs.
Yes, says conservative blogger Megan McArdle, handouts instead of programs may be okay, but the same for everyone?
I'm not sure that I would support, say, taking someone who is severely disabled and telling them, well, here's $10,000 a year, just like that healthy 20-year-old down the street, and you get the same as he does.
Bergman would prefer we beef up current welfare programs that target specific needs.
If you give out, fairly decent sums to people, some of them are going to misspend. The Swedes have worked this out very well, and people don't feel need there because the needs, the most important needs, are taken care of directly.
More generally, points out conservative McArdle, sending checks to every American would cost trillions. But most problematic of all, perhaps, a guaranteed income, she says, would discourage effort.
Having half of the population or any significant fraction of the population say that my job is just to take and other people go out and make that money, I think that is morally problematic. If you can live without working, some people will choose to.
To the left's David Graeber, however, this is nonsense.
We have this idea that people are just lazy, and if they're given, a certain amount of minimal income, they just won't do anything. Well, probably there's a few people like that, but the vast majority, it will free them to do the kind of work that they think is meaningful. I always talk about prisons. It's a great example. You have people who are fed, they're clothed, they've got shelter. They could just sit around all day, but actually they use work as a way of rewarding them. If you don't behave yourself, we won't let you work in the prison laundry. I mean, people want to work. Nobody just wants to sit around. It's boring.
In fact, a guaranteed income could drive up wages for those at the bottom. Harvard Business School's Oberholzer-Gee.
The people who now find it very difficult to get the spoils from a market economy will be in a much better negotiation position because they can walk away. They can walk away without thinking, what am I going to eat tonight?
What's going to happen in Switzerland? Is some version of a minimum income going to be adopted, do you think?
I would be very surprised if that was the case. But the debate is what really matters.
And that's just how the idea's Swiss champion, Enno Schmidt, feels.
126,000 people say, yes, we want to discuss, and this is the initiative. They don't say, yes, we are for an unconditional basic income, but that's an interesting idea, let's discuss it.
A discussion only just getting started in the Alps